I'm Lydia T. Blanco, Digital and Events Editor at Black Enterprise, and I have the esteemed honor of speaking with the real MVP, Miss Wanda Durant, who wants to share more about parenting, motherhood, and her journey as the mother to Kevin Durant, but as a woman of power. Wanda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Lydia, for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.
I feel a little odd actually calling you Wanda. Can I call you Wanda or should I call you Miss Durant?
You can call me Wanda. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now that I have your permission, you
Or,
know, so many people know you as the mother of Kevin Durant, but in
yeah.
your own words, who is Wanda Durant?
Well, I am Wanda Durant, and I am the mother of two sons. One of my sons happens to be Kevin Durant, who happens to be a basketball player. But above that, or in addition to that, I am um, a loving, kind, gentle woman who cares deeply about the communities in which I've come from and the community in which my sons play, live, and serve. And so I am philanthropic. I am a woman of faith. I am a woman who has compassion and passion for women and women's issues, for our children and our children's education. That's who I am.
You are phenomenal. You know, we've seen you on the sidelines rooting at games, but then we've heard from your sons in their own words what you were like as a mother. We
Yes.
heard you were tough, we heard you were loving, and we heard that you were about your business, but also that you were a model for your sons. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, yes. Early on, when I became a mom, I was quite terrified because I was a young mother. I had my older son when I was 18 years old, really not understanding what motherhood was all about. I saw examples of great women in my family, like my grandmother, my mom, and my aunts, but I still didn't know it for myself.
Mhm.
But early on, I had decided that I wanted more from my sons. There were characteristics that I wanted to instill in them, and I knew that I was the had to be the focal point or the teacher to instill those values in them. And so I became very engaged in their lives. I put my life on the back burner. And then the truth be told, that was one of the reasons why I focused on them so much. But in hindsight, I was actually hiding from myself as well. And that's what we do as moms. Sometimes we allow our kids to be the focal points because we need them to be, but then also sometimes they can be our scapegoats too, when we're trying to hide from who we are and some of the issues that we're confronted with. And I think because I was such a young mom, I had to put them on the back burner because I needed to focus on them.
My goodness, beautifully said. You know, I've watched a number of interviews that you have given, and one of the things that came out was the way that you came out of hiding is when your nest was empty.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you learned about yourself as your children left home and pursued their careers and their own lives?
Well, the things that I learned on, some of them were very minute things, like what my favorite color was and my favorite types of food that I like to eat. And then I took it a little deeper and I realized that I was a kind, tough, but loving woman. And I was stern. Sometimes I was very a matter of fact type of person, and sometimes I could really overthink things. I saw that I had a passion for other people, that I really genuinely cared about people. And so those were some of the things that I've noticed. And over the years, I've kind of redefined who I am as a woman. Um, I'm very passionate now. I'm first. I put myself before my children. In even situations that sometimes it's difficult to do, but I still put myself first now, because they are my sons, but they are their own responsibilities now, and just like I am mine. And so that's one of the things that I really learned to do, to be okay with putting me first.
Mm. Putting yourself first has been a reoccurring theme that has come up as of lately. I watched Becoming last night with Michelle Obama and got my entire life together. She talked about prioritizing herself. It's something that I've been having a conversation about as well. But to hear you say that, and for other women who may be mothers, parents, guardians, for them to hear that, I'm sure that it's going to resonate with them. You know, I have to ask, You are someone who has put yourself first, has put your children first, but you're also a giver. Tell us more about your philanthropy.
Well, I've always been a person who was a giver because that's the family that I've come from. My mom and my grandmother, those were two of the main influential figures in my life, and they were givers. If it was just serving food to the neighbors or helping a friend or whatever the case may have been, so that's what I've gotten it from. So that's always been a part of my DNA. But I realized that God has put us on a platform where we could do more and be more impactful to more people. And so I really take hold of that responsibility. And so I just accepted that I need to give. And I need to, first was to help women who were in situations like mine who wanted to quit, because there were times that I wanted to quit. I mean, it wasn't a bed of roses being a single parent, and I was terrified. And there were times that I wanted to quit. There was even a time that I had wanted to take my own life. And so I felt that it was my responsibility to share my story, first of all, and to give some of the antidotes that I use to help me through those times and to expose some of my weak points so that others can know that you can come through it. Even through the valleys of life, you don't have to quit. And if I share my story, then that will give them signs and evidences that they have to keep going on, because I never knew this would be my life. So we never know what tomorrow will bring.
Well said. You've also been very open about dealing with depression, overcoming depression. What advice do you have to mothers and parents, right? There are single fathers out there too, who may be tuned in and experience that depression. And what advice do you have for them to overcome?
Well, one of the things, there are a couple of things to seek help, because the stigma, there isn't the same stigma around mental illness and depression that it was back when I was experiencing it. And so I would really suggest that they seek professional help, because sometimes you just need an outside neutral source to talk you through some things and help you identify some things that really they don't have an emotional connection to you per se, but just to your well-being. And so do that first of all, and then follow the steps that they give to help you get through this, because they're experts, clinical experts that can get you through it, but you have to extend yourself, and to not rely on what your mind is telling you. If you're repeating things in your mind over and over, for me, I remember that was when I needed to kind of break out of myself, when I was repeating the same messaging over and over to myself. And so once I was able to come out of it with the help of my mom and some friends, I was able to see a little clearly. But I would suggest them to seek medical attention, because there is help out there for the mental illnesses that we face today.
That's really good advice. You are an advocate for so much. And I heard that last weekend you supported the founders of the Not Okay app for their
Yeah.
virtual prom. Tell me why you care so much about kids and community. I know you're a mother, so it only seems right. But there are some people who truly do not care. They live their cushy lives and they go on and they don't give back. But why did you participate? And what message does you showing up for events like that send to parents? Or what message do you hope it sends to parents?
Well, the reason why I wanted to support that prom and be a part of the virtual prom is because young people need our encouragement, and I am an advocate for young people. I love young people. I try not to be so hard on them. I want to be a figure that they can look up to and that they will respect my advice. And the only way that that will happen is if I'm more open and understanding to them and some of their challenges. But because of mental health, and some of the issues that the young lady had faced, I wanted her to know that even though you have gone through something as horrific as that, you can still keep going forward and produce a wonderful life for yourself. But to know that there is help there when you need it. And so for parents, I would suggest to parents that we start listening more, and really talking to our children about what it is that they're confronting with and what they're facing. Because one of the things that I've realized is when I was coming up, my influence was my extended family and my neighborhood, but it was a close I was in close proximity to that neighborhood, but now the young people are globally influenced. And so it's not just what mom or grandmom or granddad or dad are saying, it's the whole world having an input on the way that our young people are thinking. And so they're trying to figure it all out and try to find a perfect balance for themselves. And sometimes they need to talk it out. So I would suggest parents to just talk it out. And sometimes you're not going to hear what you want to hear. But we have to be open as parents and as leaders and mentors in our community to be open enough and secure enough in ourselves to accept that young people have different ideas and different ways of thinking, and know that their influences are not just the traditional influences that we're accustomed to.
Well said. We are living in unprecedented times.
Yeah.
COVID-19 is here. It appears to not be going anywhere anytime soon, as scientists have predicted a while ago. But parents are spending more time, or some parents are spending more time with their children than they have in a very long time, with school being out. And as you're saying, parents, communicate with your children, listen. What impact do you think what impact do you think this pandemic is going to have on the relationships of parents and their children?
I think it's going to be a positive impact. I know there's going to be moments of frustration, but because we have had to slow down because of this pandemic and spend more time together with our families, we're going to begin to know them a little more intimately, understand how they think, why they think the way that they do, understand some of their challenges, and also see where they're flourishing and how great they are as people. And so I think it's a very positive moment. We just have to learn how to structure it so that we create balance for every member of the family. Have special time for mom and dad time, or the parents have their own time and the children have times. I would suggest that you give yourselves a day to do nothing, whatever you want to do, within parameters, of course, but to not be focused on such of a structure all the time, but then also be very mindful of the structure that's needed so that the children will be able to migrate back into a normalcy after all this is over.
That's really good. Now, you're doing incredible work with your foundation. You actually run two foundations, yours as well as Kevin Durant's. Tell me more about the work that you're doing with the Wanda Durant Foundation.
Well, I run my foundation and I work closely with those who run my son's foundation. But for what I'm doing, and started my foundation is because I wanted to impact our communities, um, help single moms initially, and the children, and then the whole family. But I've not narrowed my focus to education, because I believe that the students coming from the areas in which my children were raised in, and so was I, that there was a lack of understanding or of the basics of reading, writing, reading phonics, and math. And so I felt that if I could shore up that foundation, that would give them a better academic experience. And so what I did is I started a Saturday Academy with my cousin, who was a 30+ year educator. And so we had the academy prior to the COVID-19. We would go from October to May, and we would have Saturday school 3 Saturdays a month for 2 hours a day, and we would teach the basics of reading, writing, and math. Um, Reading, writing, math, and reading phonics with emphasis on science. And what is the data has shown is that the children do improve because it's either 2-to-1 teacher-student ratio, 1-to-2 student teacher ratio, and it really gave them an opportunity to ask questions and to figure out how to understand the methodology for reading and writing, and reading, math, and reading phonics. And so now, during the COVID-19, we had to redo some things. And so what we've done is we've created a platform for e-learning, which the kids can go in, and is an enhancement to the school system that they're in. And they can go in and follow some of the core standard requirements of reading in those areas of study. And so that's been remarkable. And so hopefully we can extend that to a global platform, and that's what we're working on. And so that's been my focus.
That's incredible. E-learning is the thing right now, as more than 55 million students, are home and are
Yeah.
working remotely. I say working because they are working, right? People are like, oh, they're just learning or they're playing on computers. They are truly working remotely and adapting just like everyone else. So my hat is off to you and your foundation for doing that work because it is so necessary.
Yes, it is. And the thing, these kids are doing well because they had to really go through all of the pains of getting this done because this was so unexpected. And so they're holding on and they're working diligently as the school systems ramp up an adequate platform for their students. The students are being patient and they're really assisting because they're giving feedback, especially in our program, they're giving feedback as to how we can do things better. The parents are getting feedback. The teachers have given feedback of how we can do things better. And we've gotten some great input and we've made some strides. And so now it's working perfectly.
What is next for you? You do so much, you're giving back, you're taking care of yourself, you're rooting for your sons. What can we be expecting next?
Well, for me to be better, even better, I don't necessarily have to do so much. I'm learning to balance my life out so that because I do have certain things that I like to enjoy as well, but just to be better. I think we all can improve every day, not being so stringent and hard on ourselves, but uh, taking time to reevaluate ourselves at certain intervals in our lives, but just to be better because I really believe that one of the purposes that we all have in life is to serve one another. And so trying to figure out how we can do that most effectively. And so that's what I'm doing. That's the journey.
That is so exciting. Parenting does not end once your child turns 18. I hear it's a lifelong journey. As I adult, I still call on my parents. I'm like, hey, hello. You know, so I have to ask you, what advice would you give to younger Wanda Durant?
Oh, don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm,
Um, when I think about that, gosh, sometimes I just kind of breaks my heart because so much that I went through that I didn't have to go through, and a lot of it was internal. The internal messagings that I gave myself, and um, not really understanding why some of the adults responded to me the way that they did at the time. And with children, as a child, I internalized it. And so I would tell myself that you are enough, that you are loved, that you can do anything you set your mind to. And it's going to always be okay. It's no matter what happens, it's going to always be okay. That's been proven in my life, and so I wish I would have known some of those lessons then that I know now. Things may have been different, but um, those things made me who I am today. So I'm still grateful. Yeah.
that is incredible advice. Now, those who are tuned in want some advice for them as well. You have 30 years of experience, 30 plus years of experience as a parent. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, I was trying to calculate your son's age in my head as I spoke, but you have a wealth of experience and your story is incredible, but I'm sure there's someone who's already picked up a number of gems, but they probably are wondering, what advice does Wanda Durant have for me?
As a parent,
As a
or
parent, oh, let's do a two-part. As a parent and as a parent whose children are older and now
okay,
it's time for them to take care of themselves.
as a parent, one of the things that I learned early on, and I attribute this lesson to one of my dear aunts, and I'll just give you a bit of a background on it. I was having a rough time as a mom, and it seemed like my sons weren't doing their chores, weren't doing the things that I was asking them to do. They wasn't cleaning up or picking up after themselves, and whatever the case was. And so I went to my aunt's house and I was complaining to her, and I had a laundry list of things that I was telling her that I wanted from my children. And she said just a few words to me, and she said, "You want too much." And
Mm.
in an instant, those words resonated with me, and I began to reevaluate how I was performing my duties as a mom with regard to all of these tasks that I had my sons to do. And so once I lightened up, things got a little easier. Maybe the beds wasn't made up all the time when I wanted them to. Maybe their shoes was in the wrong place or whatever the case may have been. But I had lightened up. And so that caused my sons to kind of relax a bit and open up a little more. And so as a parent, I would say just don't sweat the little small things. Navigate your battles so that you can win the war. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you have one shoe in the bedroom and one shoe in the closet under the bed or whatever the case may be. Just don't sweat it. Just know that they're going to find their shoes when it's time. And also, as a mother of adult children, what I've learned to do is to not insert my opinion, just wait until it's asked for. When it's asked for, it will penetrate and adhere a little more versus when I'm interjecting my opinion. So I've learned to do that. And that was a hard, and still sometimes a hard lesson to follow. But I've learned to just wait for the request of my advice. And the relationship goes a lot smoother.
You live a very public but private life,
Yeah.
right? What do you want the world to know about Wanda Durant that we do not know?
That Wanda Durant is still as down to earth as I've always been. I've just been been afforded the opportunities to be in a lot of different rooms, but I'm still just Wanda. At the end of the day, I'm just Wanda. I see that we all are people who have made mistakes, who have want opportunities to do it over again. Um, that we've all fallen short, and so that puts us all on even keel. I don't look at people higher or lower than me. We are all the same, and we're all trying to figure it out, and we're all trying to do the best that we can with the tools that we have. Sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's not. But that's just all of who we are, and that's it. That's who Wanda is.
You're also the real MVP. And I know I started off by saying that, and it's something that, we do not take lightly. I think a number of us also consider our mothers to be the real MVPs as well. Mother's Day is right around the corner, and I have to end with this. I would like to ask you, what is your Mother's Day greeting to all of the other real MVPs out there?
First, happy Mother's Day. I want you to celebrate yourselves this Mother's Day like never before, because no matter what you may think, you've always given the best that you could give to your children. Um, Through the highs and the lows that we've all gone through, we stuck in there. We were present, we were engaging. Some mistakes that we made, but we made them doing the best that we can do. So celebrate yourself. Be excited about you as a mother, and more specifically about you as a woman, and learn to celebrate you. And it's okay.
Wanda Durant, happy Mother's Day to you as well in advance. And thank
Thank
you
you. Thank
so
you.
much. You are welcome. You are a gem in our community and to women around the world. Thank you for being who you are.
And happy Mother's Day to your mom and to all the mothers out there. God bless you. Stay safe and know that Mama Durant loves you dearly.